Social Perspectives is brought to you by Everett and Kennings.
Hello and welcome to Social Perspectives. I'm J. Gentile Everett. In the United States, we do not believe in a social caste system. However, if we were to look seriously at the social order of our world, we might just discover that we have a kind of caste system. A caste system is a form of social stratification characterized by endogamy, which is marrying within your own race, or hereditary transmission of a style of occupation, perhaps even ritual status in a hierarchy, or a customary social interaction and exclusion of other people based on cultural mores of purity and pollution. In other words, are we really a society that's free? Or are we simply puppets living in a social order that was crafted by someone else who decided for us the who's, the what's, the where's, and the how's we would live our lives? Stay tuned and stay alert. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how easily we can become socially hypnotized that will lead us to a social trance that may cause us to formulate ideas about how to deal with pain and periods of discomfort. I like to use the word trance because someone in our lives taught us how to think. Someone around us taught us how to value our environment. For an example, when I was extremely young, I was taught that alcohol consumption was inherently evil, and no one should engage in that kind of activity. So it led me to think that if you were a consumer of alcohol, even on a social level, that automatically made you an alcoholic. And in some way it damaged and soiled your soul to such an extent that redemption was almost impossible and certainly improbable. Thank God I got older. I still do not believe in the use of alcohol for me, my own personal engagement, but I have a different understanding that allows me to love and embrace and appreciate all people who may want to have a social drink from time to time. Because now I understand a social drink does not detract or take away from someone's Christian integrity. I discovered, however, in my own cultural context, I was taught to abhor alcohol. It was done because my grandparents, for an example, understood that I was pursuing ministry as a profession. So they thought it was in my best interest to not even have that as a part of my life. Ergo, no one would have to worry about me becoming an alcoholic. You see, I was taught this because they wanted to make sure that I did not embrace a behavior that might work to counter or to contradict who I am and what I was supposed to be. So there I was, placed in a kind of social trance, taught how to think, Because of that, we all had to develop angles and ways of dealing with pain. One of those ways we're going to talk about in this segment is called dissociation. Dissociation is an interesting method of employment because we are trying to deal with something that's unpleasant, something we really don't want to handle. So how do we do it? We employ dissociation. That means we shut ourselves down, take ourselves away from it. This, interestingly enough, is a biblical principle, or at least a practice. If you were to read in the Gospels, you will read about a disciple by the name of Peter. And Peter had been accused of being a member of the group or disciples of this man, Jesus. You all know the story. Well over in the night, when Jesus is being tried, someone recognized Peter as one of those who walk with the Nazarene. Peter became agitated. Peter became sickened by all of the innuendo and all of the supposition of him being associated with this man, Jesus, until he shut it down. He engaged in dissociation. He even employed colorful words to make sure that everybody understood how vehement he was in his position. He detached himself from Jesus by saying, "No, I do not know the man." Dissociated himself. Now, we do this all the time. When people daydream, when people start to tune out, shut down, withdraw, they do that as a means of dealing with pain by getting away from it. But here's the thing about it. Just because you shut down or you daydream, it does not change the reality. But we will often use this method of dissociation, particularly when it means our survival. For Peter, he needed dissociation because if he were found connected to the Nazarene, his life could have been eviscerated. So what did he do? He shut it down. He turned his attention somewhere else. I want everybody to know, when pain crowds us, when it becomes critical to the perpetuation of our own survival, we use disassociation as a defense mechanism, and we will do this because we need to psychologically reprogram ourselves to allow us to deal with the pain and the agony that we find unpleasant. So what I want everybody to know, don't get angry with people if people tend to walk away from you or they tend to distance themselves away from you. Sometimes it is done because they are having pain. And sometimes people may feel that you are the source of that pain. And if they ever feel that you are the source of that pain, what will they do? They will try to walk away or shun from you. One last thing I would like to tell you. Don't allow any of this to cause you any harm or to cause you to go into some states that will make things worse. I just want you to know sometimes people engage even in fantasy because fantasy helps them deal with their pain. Even that is a method that is aligned with dissociation. Lastly, I must let you know, Dissociation does not change the situation, but prayer surely does. Stay awake and stay alert. We'll be right back.
Hunger has never been more satisfied as it is when it tastes like the delicious Southern cuisines from the Clinton Inn. Here, flavor is never compromised and palate satisfaction always meets the expectation. The weekly buffet features all of the special dishes to which we have grown accustomed. Come dine with us on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays starting at 11 a.m. and enjoy a scrumptious meal at the Clinton Inn in Laurinburg, North Carolina, where food has never tasted so good.
We are excited to share with you our new office that we just opened in the Washington, Maryland area. The phone number is 301-578-5800. That's 301-578-5800. Everett Media. Please give us a call if there's anything that we can do to help you and your community, or to shed or shine light where there is darkness. You can catch all of the things that we are involved in. Please go to our website. That's jgeverett.com. Follow up with the number that's at the bottom of your screen, and you will be able to stay in touch with us. You can contribute to our causes, and we will have merchandise there for you to purchase. That's Everett Media, 301-578-5800.
Welcome back. The next method we would like to talk about is absorption. This is a process that can serve as a kind of precursor to a trance. Essentially, absorption is the capacity to become involved and engaged in activity such that awareness of external reality is not only diminished, but you are actually wrapped up into another exercise that you use to keep you from being attached to reality. Give you some examples. Sometimes people are listening to music and they are so into that music that they don't hear anything else. Sometimes people are reading a novel and they find this novel so interesting that they cannot hear someone knocking at the door. They cannot hear someone calling their name. Also, it could be like they're looking at a film, and the film has captured their imagination to such an extent that they have suspended everything else around them, and they are locked into that moment. Let me tell you one of the things that I have seen, and I guess it has happened to me if I were to be candid about it. If you're reading something like a novel, even the Bible itself, you have to sort of suspend your being and put yourself in the text. And that's how you get a chance to experience the majesty and the gravity of the text, is when you become immersed in it. You know, for an example, that the novel is a work of fiction. You understand that. You do that when you crack the book open. But to get the full appreciation of what the book is about, you have to insert yourself into the story to such an extent that you actually start to feel things in the story. The story evokes from you an emotional response. Have you ever been reading something and you read about a character, or you're looking at a movie you see this character, and this character is constantly engaged in one shenanigan after the other. You start to develop ideas about that character, and you want that character to be hurt in some way, or killed in some way, or punished. You understand intellectually that this is a theatrical production. But because you absorbed yourself in it, you detached yourself from all of the other things that was going on around you. For an example, people in church, people in families. This is a method that is used quite a bit. Have you ever heard somebody say, I haven't seen you in 3 years, and then somebody responds, I've been so busy. You know what they're actually saying? They're saying, I've been so wrapped up in those matters that I have found germane to my own life that I lost contact with you, or perhaps the significance of that other person has diminished because you have become so absorbed in what you're doing. This happens in relationships. This happens in churches. It happens in platonic relationships. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in what we want for ourselves that we lose contact with very significant people that God placed in our space. What I say to all of you, let's remember, people that God has placed in your space, He did it because of a divine orchestration. He had a divine purpose. Don't lose those precious loved ones because you are personally absorbed by something else. Because in the process, you run the risk of losing you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When you're in need of making the old new again with beautiful upholstery, D. Berry's Upholstery is the best, whether it's automobile interior or exterior, boats, church pews, or any residential or commercial seating and the like. Look no further. D. Berry Upholstery's got you covered. Call D. Berry's at 910-276-2265 and experience new again.
I want to give a special shout out to a young lady who's doing a marvelous work and trying to help people own their own homes. Her name is Denise Smith, Senior Loan Officer with Carrington Mortgage. Her credentials and contact information are on the screen now. Please get it and respond. They have many programs trying to help minorities and people who otherwise would not have the opportunity to own their own home. She is standing for all of us. Thank you, Denise, for all that you have done and will do for those that will be contacting you. Tell Denise J. Gentile Everett asked you to call.
Welcome back to our final segment. Our final segment has to do with the word suggestibility. Suggestibility shares and opens up our mind to the idea that people who have it are people who have a heightened awareness of the sensitivity of other people. People who are endowed with suggestibility are people who are more determined to get along There are people who want to embrace peace. They want things to be calm and settled. It's not that they're gullible, and it's not that they'll just take anything that comes along. It's just that their awareness of sensitivities are heightened. These are those who will be the first to say, I will humble myself before I have to engage in a kind of horrific discussion about what you want versus what might be the best for the group. People who have suggestibility are not weak. Do not consider them weak. They are the exact antithesis of weakness. They exhibit great feats of strength because they have made up their mind that they would rather live in peace than to fight with someone else for a matter that's going to always fall into the category of temporary. Let's remember, every action that we take here on the earth is tied to something temporary, like us. We are only here for a season. So those who have embraced suggestibility are first those who do not mind saying, okay, you can do it your way, and I'm going to love you even though I do not agree with it. For the sake and for the sanctity of God's love, particularly in God's house, I will oblige you. Doesn't mean that I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I am going to in some way promote this great spiritual travesty. But it does mean I'm not going to get in your way because I'm going to turn it over to a higher authority. And that higher authority is God. That's one area of suggestibility. But then there's another. Now the other one is a little bit different. Suggestibility also sends us to a place where we allow context, we allow atmospheres and environments to dictate how we are going to respond. For example, when you are at a basketball game, you understand you are at a basketball game. So you take a behavior that will blend in with what is expected at a basketball game. You cheer. You might be loud. Might be raucous. But you're at a game. The atmosphere suggests that it's okay for you to be that way. We do the same thing in church. Unfortunately, I have either the pleasure or the piercing pain of seeing how church atmospheres suggest a certain behavior that people should bring there, and they do not always bring it, but at least the atmosphere suggests it. Bottom line is this. When you go to church and you are only going to let the atmosphere dictate to you, okay, I'm in church, let me have on my church face, my church clothes, my church attitudes. I have news for you. Churches can suggest all they want to, but until you embrace the author behind the church, the presence, the spirit behind the suggestion, until that happens, you miss the mark. It is my hope and my prayer that we will get out of the notion in church of saying, okay, because I'm in church, I'm not going to do this to you, or I'm not going to say this to you. Well, my friends, you've already said it. You've already done it because you conceptualized it, you thought about it, and the only reason why you didn't do it was because you permitted an atmosphere or a building to suggest to you that you should not do it. In my conclusion, let me tell you, I love my parents, I love my grandparents, I love my sisters, my family, I love my friends. I don't love my family and my friends because that's what they are. And because of that, friendship and family relationships supposed to suggest that I act a certain way. That doesn't make it authentic. I love them because I love them. And it does not matter what they are or who they are. I'm not going to allow a system to suggest to me. I am going to permit the authenticity from my own being dictate how I love. I'm going to leave you there, and I want to thank you for watching us, and I want you to make sure you catch all of the credits after this segment. We want all of you to help us continue to do this great work. We're trying to share with the world the wonderful message of love. We thank all of our sponsors and all of those on Gentile's preferred business list. Let's support them. And we're going to ask all of you, please continue to give and help us get this word to this lost world. You can give on your Cash App by going to $Renaissance Ministry and click on giving, and it will go straight to our cause. Or you can mail all of your gifts to the Renaissance Ministry or our ministry at MBBC P.O. Box 1078, Fairmont, NC 28340. The address is at the bottom of your screen, so feel free to contact us and be on the lookout for some many interesting things that are about to happen right here with the Renaissance Ministry. We want you to be a part of it. We have some global initiatives that we are embarking upon now. You want to be a part of that. Be with us so that we can be with the world. Have a great evening. We'll see you the next time on Social Perspective.